Hello everybody, welcome to Texas Best. My name is Matthew. Let's jump right into some news coming out of the largest cities here in the Lone Star State. The first one I want to bring to your attention will be that the Harris County Democratic Party will no longer endorse the Houston sitting mayor John Whitmire for two main reasons. The first being his appearance at a fundraiser in the name of Representative Republican Dan Crenshaw here in Texas. The second being his admission of the HBD cooperating wholeheartedly with ICE. So this past Sunday, 186 Democrat precinct chairs voted in favor to admonish the mayor, meaning the party will not back him if he decides to run for re-election in 2027. So, in response to this vote, Whitmire has said that there are many inaccuracies in the resolution. He rounded up a bunch of his supporters, and in response to the vote, he says, "The coalition of my supporters emphasize that the resolution does not reflect the priorities of Houston residents and risks undermining the progress made under the mayor's leadership. Supporters noted that Mayor Whitmire is focused on stabilizing city operations, strengthening public safety, and addressing long-standing challenges through collaboration and accountability." So right off the bat, I want to say that if your coalition of supporters can't even put up much of a fight in the vote to oust you, then clearly they do not represent the priorities of Houston residents. Like, you lost the vote, so most people don't agree with you. That's how voting works. Also, this keeps popping up more and more. For some reason, Whitmire considers the position of Houston mayor as nonpartisan. It's a political office. Like, I hate to break it to you, bub, but all political offices are partisan. You run as a Democrat. That is a party. And so when he continues to say it is nonpartisan, I understand why the Democrats have decided to kick him to the curb. Mainly being a lot of the things he does are pretty Republican, like low key. First of all, he says his biggest issue with the ousting is that there are many inaccuracies in the resolution. There's one topic that has consistently misrepresented my stance. I strongly oppose the fear-based and harmful tactics used by ICE that tear families apart and undermine trust in our communities. Houston does not interact with ICE on immigration enforcement. We follow state and city laws, including Senate Bill 4. We'll continue to keep our city safe. So it's funny that he says Houston does not interact with ICE on immigration and enforcement, but that they follow state and city laws, including Senate Bill 4. Senate Bill 4 calls illegal immigration a crime, and therefore the police must cooperate with ICE. So he immediately contradicts his own stance right there. He also goes on to say, "I want to thank my many supporters. This changes nothing. I'll continue to fight," blah, 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 working across the aisle with his Republican counterparts, which I understand. That's the name of the game when it comes to politics, is cooperation. But to say that the mayoral office is nonpartisan is stupid. Blatantly stupid, man. I thought this was hilarious. The Houston Progressive Caucus said that John Whitmire called in every favor from 50 years in politics and could only get 20 precinct chairs to support him. Again, the ending vote came out to 186 against 80, but still, dude, they're cooking him. They're cooking him to say that's less than 3% of all Harris County Democratic precinct chairs. See you Sunday, John. So again, John being like, "Oh, I represent Houston. Houstonians stand with me. This is divisive." Like, dude, it seems like you're the divisive one here. Mainly, again, because of a lot of the issues that he represents, he takes a pretty Republican stance on. And so the most heated issue with this is that he showed up at a fundraising event meant for U.S. Republican Representative Dan Crenshaw. Whitmire's name was on the flyer for the event and everything. The issues that Democrats take with this is that Crenshaw had voted to defund Medicaid by nearly $900 billion, negatively affecting more than 1 million Houston residents, just in Houston alone. They say, in response to him showing up at Dan Crenshaw's event, Crenshaw voted to give wealthy billionaires a tax cut paid for by cutting Medicaid and SNAP, reducing healthcare access, shrinking food assistance for seniors, and raising electricity costs for ordinary families. These cuts hit Houston hospitals, clinics, and working households. No Democratic mayor should be raising money for a politician who treats our communities as collateral damage. And so I just want to draw your attention all the way back to Whitmire's defense against this when he said that his supporters like to focus on how he stabilizes city operations, strengthen public safety, and address the long-standing challenges to collaboration and accountability. And yet, he seems to be supporting people who undercut his own constituents, undercut their housing, undercut their food, undercut their access to healthcare. And yet he says that he's reaching across the aisle, he's cooperating with his Republican colleagues. But again, the Houston mayoral seat is nonpartisan, so it doesn't matter if he's doing Republican things, even though he's called a Democrat. It's stupid, and it's this self-defeating logic. And I mean, Whitmire's gotta go. Whitmire's gotta go, man. He's a secret Republican, a closeted Republican, as they say. And so, kick him out, kick him out, kick him out. You got some defenders of Whitmire saying that his involvement at the event was greatly exaggerated. He merely appeared in order to establish a working relationship with Dan Crenshaw, but that he never asked anybody to support Dan Crenshaw. He never asked anybody to vote for Dan Crenshaw. And most importantly, he never asked anybody to donate to Dan Crenshaw. To which I would say, bullshit, dude, bullshit. Your presence at Dan Crenshaw's fundraising event is intentional. Like, you are there to drive money for him, a member of the opposite party. And like, I understand that when it comes to working across the aisle, getting deals done, but support Dan Crenshaw anywhere else that's not a fundraiser specifically for Dan Crenshaw. Show up at like a birthday party, meet him at town hall, haggle with him in the hallways of the Texas Capitol. Do anything but to show up at his fundraiser and then have the balls to say, well, I never asked anybody to donate money. Your presence, your mere presence, ties you now to his funds. So you don't get to use that defense. You have inherently driven fundraising for him now. It doesn't matter if you openly said, go fund him. You were there. You were next to him. You took photos with him. That's what's going on in Houston right now. Let's jump over to San Antonio. So this was kind of sad. There are a lot of schools closing around Texas. A lot of schools. So recently, San Antonio ISD is considering closing another school. That would be Carvajal Elementary. That would add on to, I believe, the 15 other campuses closed within the past year or two. The public education across Texas is taking a very big hit. And you know what? After doing some research today, I can't help but notice that a lot of these schools being hit are typically for multiracial, multilingual kind of students. Not really beating the racist allegations there, Texas. So yes, the San Antonio ISD is considering closing Carvajal Elementary School, another in a long list of campuses closed since 2024. The school does indeed have an F rating, but that is primarily because of their small bilingual program on top of decline in student enrollment. We will talk about the decline in our next little tidbit here. But when it comes to their small bilingual program, I can't help but think that, man, maybe it's just some funding for the schools rather than vouchers for the pockets of parents would go a long way in helping these like smaller, more community-based schools that are specifically designed for Spanish-speaking communities, African-American communities, Muslim communities. We have an Arabic immersion school here in Houston. Like, these schools are designed for the communities they're servicing, and they're being underfunded, and because they're being underfunded, they're shutting down. They're shutting down, and the state of Texas has taken over many ISDs. Out of here in Houston, they took over Beaumont ISD recently. That's cool. The closing of these campuses only leads families to enrolling their kids in nearby charter and private schools. So I can't help but notice that these vouchers are really damaging these local schools and driving traffic to private schools and charters. As somebody who went to a private Catholic elementary, to a Jesuit college preparatory high school, to a private out-of-state university, private school funding is incredibly expensive. It is very, very expensive. And so the state of Texas, using its funds, rather than helping these smaller local schools, you let them flounder, you let them fall apart without state funding, without any help whatsoever, on top of the fact that we're targeting these communities with immigration crackdowns, on top of the fact that we're targeting these communities by getting rid of even teaching about them. Now anything that is considered DEI in history, we got to get rid of. We are cutting out Black folklore. We're cutting out Mexican folklore here in Texas. I think these vouchers are a really bad idea, and it is destroying our local school programs. And so I want to tie that in to what's coming out of DFW, and that's Grand Prairie ISD is also looking to close 3 schools here pretty soon due to a $17 million deficit. After reading what was going on in Grand Prairie, the issues are the exact same. Declining enrollment and funding issues. They're underfunded. Because they're underfunded, less and less students are showing up. The school board for these 3 schools will be voting on January 15th when it comes to the decision of closing these 3 school campuses. So again, I just want to draw your attention to the 3 campuses that are being targeted. That would be Delmas Morton Elementary, Travis World Language Academy, and Dickinson Elementary. Two of those schools are specifically designed to help marginalized communities. For instance, Delmas Morton literally used to be the Robert E. Lee Elementary School until 2020. That's insane. A Robert E. Lee Elementary. But recently it was changed to reflect Delmas Morton, a local African American outstanding member of the community who died, I believe, within the past couple years here, in the past few years. They're also challenging the Travis World Language Academy, which to me, when I looked into it, seems like it's a Spanish language immersion kind of school. It has over 600 Spanish-speaking students. Dickinson Elementary is going to be rolled into a nearby high school. Again, man, I just can't help but note that the state voucher program is ripping apart these smaller schools, which are already dealing with underfunding issues to begin with. But now it's like there's a hit list out on them, which allows the state of Texas to then come in, take over the campuses, and take over the entire independent school districts. These school districts are no longer independent. It is affecting San Antonio, Dallas, Fort Worth. I promise you, schools here in Houston are being hit. Schools in Austin are being hit. Smaller, more rural schools are absolutely being hit. So that's going on in San Antonio and Dallas. But I wanted to end this video on some good news. So, coming out of Austin, Southwest Airlines has recently announced a deal that it's going to be tripling its workforce in Austin, bringing about 2,000 new jobs. This is cool. We always like to see new jobs. We love to see people working. We love to see Texans working. What I'm not the biggest fan of is the fact that Texas is going to be fronting $14 million for this extension program through the Texas Enterprise Fund. And so if you keep up with local Texas news, you'll know that, like maybe last week, they removed, some crazy statistic, like 95% of all small businesses from its historically underutilized business program. A program meant to help small business owners of marginalized communities. Again, when we say marginalized communities, DEI, it means everybody but white men, because the people who profit the most from DEI are white women. But nonetheless, anybody who's not a white man can qualify for the HUB program. Well, I mean, they could, but now I think it targets only veterans, and only veterans who meet a certain threshold of military-related injuries. Like, not even all veterans. You gotta be kind of fucked up in order to get that sort of government help. But when it comes to these giant corporations, Texas is more than willing to shell out tens of millions of dollars to help, again, Southwest Airlines, Tesla, things like that. But it does not help its small businesses. Nonetheless, though, again, good news that Southwest is bringing more jobs and more money into the Austin market. The Austin City Council also unanimously voted in support of an incentive program with Southwest to hire locally and then to also shift money towards childcare, which I'm a big fan of. I think childcare should be absolutely funded at this point. The fact that we still argue about things like maternity leave, paid paternity leave, it's insane. So they can't force Southwest's hand, but I do appreciate that they have offered an incentive program with the company to drive childcare programs and to hire locally. Good news, and also some more good news coming out of El Paso. A panel of judges are siding with consumers and have decided to block El Paso Electricity over raising their rate increases. This is good. This is good. So the proposed increase by El Paso Electric should have taken effect next year, but it may be decreased. So again, it's not mandatory. I wish the judges would take more of a hardline stance on this, but after a suggestion from a panel of judges overseeing the utilities rate case, these judges sided with customers and suggested moderating it. So, instead of authorizing the requested shareholder profit margin of 10.7%, the Public Utility Commission should approve an allowed return of 9.4%. I get it. This is all super duper boring. Public Utility Commission, they're the only people that can cap the kind of profit that monopoly utilities like electricity companies can do. Because I promise you, the electricity company we have here in Houston, for the most part, center pointless. These monopolized companies suck. And so the fact that the El Paso Electric Company wanted to raise its prices by 10.7%, or the profit margin by 10.7%, rather than anything lower, it's just to increase money of people who don't even live here. Might I say, most shareholders don't live where their money is going. So El Paso Electric is now evaluating the panel's recommendation, the utility said in the statement. So when electricity prices go up, profit for the shareholders go up. but it also screws over the customers actually living in El Paso. So if the prices go down, the customers win, but the shareholders get a little bit less money in their pockets. It's insane. It's stupid. I hate that public utilities are privatized, which should be public utilities, are privatized, and that these privatized companies get to make decisions based on the opinions of the shareholders rather than the people who essentially have to use El Paso Electric, because I mean, you just live in El Paso. You don't really get a choice. And another thing that I thought was stupid is that they were going to raise the price on people who use solar panels. A big part of the rate case involves what to do with customers who have rooftop solar panels. The utility currently charges a $30 minimum bill for rooftop solar customers, arguing they still rely on the grid when their panels aren't producing electricity. So, this is stupid because the point of getting solar panels is to reduce the amount you're paying to electricity companies by utilizing renewable resources like the sun. And yes, you're still using electricity when the sun's gone. I think, first of all, you should be charged for what electricity you're using, not paying a $30 minimum bill just because you, again, happen to live in El Paso. The fact that they then decided to try and raise that price, just a subscription to living in the city of El Paso. You don't even use their electricity for the most part, and they still want to raise your rates. Like, kudos to the panel of judges who decided to block this nonsensical BS. The judges, at the end of the day, they recommended that the Public Utility Commission hold a flat monthly customer charge at $9.25 rather than the proposed $13.71. Again, this is all working on averages and what the average customer and the average consumer uses electricity-wise. All it comes down to is that they are going to raise rates. First of all, again, they're going to raise how much they're charging. They're trying to raise it more than they need to, again, so they can squeeze out every extra penny from Texans. But I'm happy that there's some things fighting back. So there's your good news. Again, just to recap, Houston, Democrats are kicking John Whitmire to the curb. San Antonio and Dallas-Fort Worth, bunch of schools are closing down, just happens to be hitting them today. Austin, we have more jobs opening up, Southwest expanding its hub. It used to be like a really Texas-based local kind of airline, but now I believe it's international. Good for them, not really. They got rid of their seating. I'm not going to harp on Southwest, but good that jobs are coming. Good that the Austin City Council wants these jobs to involve things like childcare, and they want people to be hired locally. And then really good news, El Paso not blocking, again, it could be better, but deciding and recommending that the Public Utility Commission not raise rates as much as they were originally planning to. That's all I have for you today. Thank you for watching. Please make sure to hit that like and subscribe. Tomorrow we will cover some news coming straight out of Texas government. Have a nice day.